Hi, I'm Ree from mummyof4.com. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about reasons that you should not get your child tested for autism. Now, as a parent of children with autism, I get lots of messages and comments on my videos and over on my Instagram from parents who have seen potential signs of autism in their children. There are lots of signs of autism that I explained in this video over here, so go and check that out later. Also, parents of children who have had a teacher or another healthcare professional bring it up that they think that child may have autism, and generally these parents are getting in touch to say, what should I do? Most of the reasons for not wanting to get a child assessed for autism have actually come from parents in those messages that I have received. The first reason that most parents don't want to get their child assessed for potentially having autism is quite simply denial. So this would be generally where a teacher or a care worker, a nursery worker, someone that is involved in the child's care has seen signs and symptoms, takes it to the parents, and the parents generally say, nope, you're wrong. Just outright, you're wrong, I don't see this in my child, and there is a lot of denial going on. Now, this is something I can empathise with. It's sometimes very difficult to hear these things as a parent about our children. And it's less about wanting our children to be perfect, but perhaps just not wanting to ever think of them having to deal with anything that would make their life any more difficult than it has to be. Lots of parents experience this denial, and lots of teacher friends that I have say that most times that they can speak to a parent and say that the child may have autism, it's denial and just not wanting to hear it at all that they are faced with. My answer to this is, if you're thinking, well, these people are wrong, there's nothing there, but it's not going to cost you anything to have the diagnosis or have the assessment, I would say just get your child's name down, and if whichever person has put this forward is wrong, then the assessment will come out as negative and your child will be assessed as not having autism, not needing a diagnosis, and being neurotypical. There is no harm in actually going through the assessment process. Generally, when they're very little, it's lots of playing and games and things, and it's not a stressful process for the children in my experience. Now, another reason that I hear for parents not wanting to get their child assessed is when friends and family or even teachers are saying, oh, there's nothing wrong. Now, this can often be the denial of the friends and family, and especially when children, and this happens a lot with my children, will kind of hold it together and not have meltdowns as much out and about. So other people perhaps won't witness the same amount of signs and things of autism that you would see at home. And often children, when they are at home and they're feeling more comfortable, are more likely to let it all out and let go of their stresses and have that meltdown that they've kind of been holding together and trying to suck in all day. So often you will see more signs of autism at home than perhaps they would even see in school. My advice to you is, if you have got concerns and you are with your child most of the day, every day, then you are going to be seeing more evidence or signs than perhaps friends, family, school teachers, whatever it might be. So if you have concerns, do not let what other people think hold you back from getting your child assessed and getting it looked into, because as a parent, you know your child best and you are more likely to see things that other people just won't. Now, a big reason lots of parents don't want to get their child assessed is that they worry it's all in their head, and I can totally get this, especially when I was going through the process with my daughter. I'd already had my son, my second child, assessed, and he had a diagnosis. And a big worry for me was, am I seeing things here because I know more about autism, so therefore I'm being more astute and I'm seeing things that perhaps other people wouldn't see? Or am I just seeing autism everywhere because I'm surrounded by autism? And this was something I battled with a lot. The conclusion I came to in the end is only an assessment could tell me the answer. I'm really glad I did what I did, and I actually went through with it and got the assessment because she did actually come out with a diagnosis. And if I just really carried on second guessing myself, then she wouldn't have had that diagnosis, and then I wouldn't be able to access her the help that she needs as she gets older. Another big concern I hear from parents a lot is they don't want their child labelled. And this is definitely something that was very common when I was younger, even with things like dyslexia. I had friends whose parents didn't want a label on their child. And I think this this kind of attitude is diminishing, it's filtering out a little bit, but it still is out there quite a lot. Now, what you've got to remember is if your child has a diagnosis, it's not going to be a tattoo on their head. If you don't want to tell anyone, you don't want to do anything with it, you don't need to access them any help, then you don't have to tell anyone. If you want to keep it a secret for whatever reason, then that's fine. Your child doesn't have to be actively labelled with anything. But what you've got to realise is whether that child has autism and a diagnosis, or has autism and doesn't have a diagnosis, it's still there. The diagnosis isn't going to change how your child is wired, how their brain works. The only thing a diagnosis is going to change is that you will be able to better understand how your child is wired, how their brain works, and how to help them. So if you're worried about getting this label, just think it is not a tattoo on their forehead. It's not something that you have to advertise if you don't want to. A diagnosis just means that all the people caring for your child, such as friends, family, school teachers, whoever it might be that looks after them, are better able to understand how to keep them happy, how to help them learn better and thrive. A lot of families have a massive concern that by putting a child through an assessment process, they will find something that isn't really there. Now, this is a big concern for a lot of people, but honestly, the assessment process is so detailed. It's so in-depth and it looks at so many different things. There are questionnaires from the school or whoever else looks after your child. There are parent questionnaires, there are observations, there's a speech and language component. I have got very detailed blog posts and videos, which will all be linked below, about the whole assessment process. From what I understand, there is no way that a child could go through that process and get a diagnosis of autism if they did not have autism. So please don't worry that they're going to end up getting wrongly diagnosed by this system. Although it is something that crossed my mind before I witnessed the whole process, it's really not something I believe could happen. Of parents, avoid starting the assessment process because they worry that it's going to be stressful. Now, there are two elements to this. Yes, as a parent, I will admit I found it stressful, but equally, I think my life would have been a lot more difficult in the long run if I had a child with autism that I didn't understand and I was unable to get the help for. So although the process was stressful for me, I don't regret it at all. People that worry it's going to be stressful for the child, none of my children were stressed out by the process. Now, I'm not saying that no child has ever been stressed out by it, but in my experience, the doctors were all very lovely. The experience was not invasive. There were no physical examinations beyond checking their height, weight. They might have done their blood pressure before they started the assessment and just listening to their heart, but just literally to rule out anything really, really obvious and physical. That was as physical as it got. It was not invasive at all. Most of it was playing with toys and observing how they played with toys. Obviously, my children were quite young when they were assessed. William was nearly 4, Bella was just 5, but they really did not find the process stressful in any way. So if you are worried about your child being stressed out by the process, then I would probably say that it's very unlikely they would be stressed out by it, but the pros definitely outweigh the cons, because if they go through an assessment process and they do need a diagnosis, you're then going to be able to make their life so much easier by understanding them and putting things in place so that they are less stressed out in the long run. The other thing that puts parents off is the difficulty in getting referred. Now, I totally get this, and it can be a massive battle. And in fact, the getting to the assessment bit, I'd probably say was more stressful than the actual assessment. Once they'd agreed to assess my children, although it's pretty intense, I found at least it was happening, and at least I knew that they were going to get that assessment. For me, for all of the children, I felt like the battle was very much an overloaded system, and the health system just kind of looking for any excuse not to have to assess people. Here in the UK, it doesn't actually cost anything to get assessed. We're very lucky to have the NHS, but it is very, very overrun. Currently, where I live, under 5s are dealt with and assessed by the NHS, and it's quite a lengthy process, but it's not nearly as lengthy a process as the school system, which takes over after they turn 5, which takes many, many years. So obviously they only want to assess the children that are struggling the most. So as a parent, sometimes you really have got to get kind of your fighting gloves on and fight for your child if you feel that they do actually need to be assessed. So if you're feeling totally overwhelmed, this is your sign from the universe to just do it. Make the call, write the letter, send the email, whatever it's got to be, to just get the process started. Because the sooner you get it started, the sooner you will get through the fight and out the other side. Easy as it is to procrastinate starting this battle, I can highly recommend starting sooner rather than later if you have any concerns at all. Now, something else that puts people off is the cost of testing. Now, as I just mentioned, we are very lucky in the UK to have the NHS. Now, unfortunately, not every child will be assessed by the NHS if they are older than a certain age and they're taken over by the school system, or if you don't live in the UK. Now, obviously then, if it comes to the waiting list is so long, then you have to go privately, or you don't live in the UK. It is going to have to be more of a decision for you, whether you've got the money to spend and how important you feel it is for your child to get that diagnosis. But if you live in the UK, and I mean, it's well worth checking wherever you live, definitely look into if there's any way you can get the assessment done for free via the NHS, how long it's going to take via the medical system or via the school system, and just keep pushing and pushing. The sooner you get your child's name on a waiting list, then the sooner you'll be able to get some answers. But obviously, when there is an actual cost involved, it's going to be a lot more of a difficult decision whether to go for it or not for you and your family. The big question is, should you get your child assessed for autism? If you've clicked on this video, it's probably because you've got some sort of concern about your child or someone that you know. And my message to you, if that's the case, is if you have enough of a concern to click on this video or to send me a message or to start Googling symptoms, if you've got enough of that concern, if it's in your gut, that you have those worries about your child, that you've seen those flags, you've just seen those signs, then I would suggest just starting the process as soon as possible. I genuinely don't believe that a child without autism would end up with a diagnosis, so please don't worry about that. And just remember that just because you get your child's name down now, it doesn't mean you have to go down the assessment route when the time comes. The assessment process often has such massively long waiting lists that just think about it this way. If you put your child's name down today and you get a phone call in a year or more's time to say, right, we're going to put you forward for assessment, you'll either be thinking, well, that was something and I think I don't even need it, and you can pass the place over to someone else, or wow, I'm really glad I put their name down because actually the signs that I was seeing then have increased and I'm really, really glad I did it at that time. But just know that putting your child's name down and starting the ball rolling does not mean you are fully committing to anything, and it's well worth just starting off that process if you have concerns. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this has been helpful. There are lots more videos here in this playlist that you can check out all about autism, plus loads of other videos on the channel about organisation, vlogs, shopping hauls and lots of other mum stuff. So I hope you enjoy all that. Don't forget to like, subscribe, do all those YouTubey things. I shall see you guys very soon in the next video. Bye!